And look at this. So, hey, nice hand, Charlie. So let's see what he does here. So the game is 25-50 no limit. Four-handed, big blind bets is sitting out. And Charlie defends queen 8 suited, big blind versus cutoff, which is very standard. Dud ends up betting very small. You can check raise your hand if you wanted to, but calling is definitely the standard play. King's a really good card for you because now it's less likely that Dud has a king. And if he had a hand like Jack 10 of hearts, he didn't improve to any more outs. So on the river, Charlie could go for a small bet if he wanted to, you know, try and get called by a hand like pocket sixes or a hand like ace high or worse 8. So you can go for a small bet or you could end up checking here. And if Dud were to bet a reasonable amount, you'd probably have to end up calling here. Maybe Dud bets the same type of hand. He can still be bluffing here with a hand like Queen Jack, for instance. So pretty clear call. Look at Charlie's face. Can you guys see my mouse? He looks like Jack Sparrow right now. You know, one eye closed. Arr! Does he have the pocket tens? Arr! But in the end, I do think Charlie should make the call, which he does. And he shows aces. I mean, that's fine. Aces is a good play by Dud. And Dud is a very good player, so not expecting anything less. Nice hand there. I mean, there's just nothing you can do, right? An 8 is going to be near the top of your range at that point. Your opponent could bet a worse hand for value, or maybe the same hand. Of course, he can just be bluffing, so as a standard, you should call there. If you think your opponent sucks and is never really bluffing, sure, then you could end up folding. 9 deuce is a loose hand to defend with, but it's fine. And ace 10 4. Oshpiel's going to end up betting here. I don't know how much, but likely small, like a third pot, quarter pot, something like that. And yeah, you've got backdoor draws, but they're not good enough. I don't think you can end up bluff raising here. It's not a board on which you get to go too crazy, right? So I understand what Charlie's doing here, but it's a little bit questionable. Turn's not so good for Oshpiel's range, so let's see if Charlie bluffs here. I mean, he blocks ace deuce, he blocks ace 9, he does have a gut shot. But then again, this is pretty loose, right? And Oshpiel's going to do a decent amount of checking here. Also a decent amount of small betting, maybe even a big bet. Charlie definitely has to bluff his hand. I mean, he's got 9 high, right? If Oshpiel had a hand like king, queen, he's not going to end up check calling most likely. So I think it's an easy bluff spot. So Charlie goes for an overbet here. He's trying to represent a flush or maybe a hand like pocket sevens, which is kind of hard to rep given how he played his hand. He should definitely have some hands to like check back the turn that make a flush or a set. But that was a little bit suspicious right there. Obviously very easy to say when you know what he's got. All right, so we've got a new table now. Calling a 3-bet with 4 or 5 suited, very, very standard. And ace 5 deuce is a board on which everybody plays kind of differently. I wouldn't be surprised if Dud bet something like $100 here or even less. Yeah, exactly. As you can tell, I mean, I'm predicting these plays pretty accurately. And the reason is because I've been playing Dud for years now, right? So I know how he plays, I know what he does, and most of it he does very well. Charlie calls here, and now, I mean, you probably want to end up betting, right? You don't block an ace, so it's more likely Dud calls you down with something like ace, queen plus spade. You've got a very, very good hand here. And Dud folds, and, you know, definitely folded the worst hand. Let's see what Charlie does here with pocket fives. I predict he's going to call. Or not. No, he does 3-bet. Okay. Perfectly fine play, by the way. Your hand is definitely not a high EV 3-bet, as in you don't have big cards in your hand, so you don't block your opponent's calling ranges and 4-bet ranges. Your playability is also not fantastic. Okay, so seems like Charlie did get called when he had pocket fives, and let's see if he actually bluffs this one through. Charlie's going to have ace king here every time. He's going to have some hands like king 9, sometimes 8 9. He's going to have the sets. He's doing very, very well here. And Charlie definitely has a lot of hearts, so let's see if he ends up bluffing this one. Problem is, Oshpiel can have a lot of those good hands himself, right? Not a big fan of this bet size, by the way. Should be a smaller bet size. And now this is a really bad card for you, right? Because Oshpiel could have been calling a set on the flop of their turn, or even two pair, and now he's made a full house. So it's not exactly an attractive card here. And Oshpiel has king 8 suited, fair play. Oshpiel was thinking, oh, please don't shove, please don't shove. Because what the fuck is this guy bluffing with, right? So Oshpiel happily checks behind, knowing that he often just wins or chops, could even lose to ace king sometimes. Jack 9-4 is a board on which you can definitely mix. I don't mind that play by Charlie. Ace king doesn't get that much value from worse hands. It doesn't really want to get check raised, so I can't blame him. So Oblom bets really small here, trying to get thin value, thinking that Charlie's not very strong here. He can just get him to fold a lot of hands that he needs protection against. Meanwhile, 9-8, fine hand to just check. So it looks like Charlie ended up 3-betting here. That's a fine play. And it's a decent board to check on. It's obviously not a great board for you, right? Given that Oblom can have a lot of sets and two pairs, a couple of straights. Really good card for Charlie's hand, but a bad card for his range. So I'd be quite impressed if he checks here, which he does. Actually, I really like that. He's not just looking at his hand, but he's also looking at how much he should be betting this board in general. So really strong play by Charlie so far. And now Charlie goes for an overbet, which I really don't like. I mean, this is not good. I really like the turn check. I don't mind a river bet. I think a river bet is good, but this sizing is just way too greedy. Way too greedy, Charlie. Come on. 10-6 suited, easy raise. It's not a great hand, but it is a play. An 8-5 deuce here. It's not a great board for you. Oblom is going to have more hands like pairs and backdoors and stuff like that. So you have to be careful. With that said, 10-8 suited, 10-6 suited is a decent hand to be betting here or check raising. Your hand is only 10 high, so if your opponent folds, that's great. And you do have pretty good backdoors, right? You definitely cannot fold your hand here, so actually don't mind this play. It's a little bit aggressive, but it's fine. I like it. Freddy calls. Turns a 4, and Oblom can definitely have hands like... He can definitely have hands like 6-7 off here, right? So Charlie has to be a little bit careful. At the same time, it's not a terrible card or anything. If it were something like the 6 of hearts, that would be a terrible card. Or a really scary card. So Oblom is thinking, he probably has something like a pair or pair and a draw, right? Like a decent hand, and it's a tough spot. River is a 10, and Charlie definitely cannot get a lot of value here, but he can get maybe a tiny bit of value. So either what he's got to do is bet small, like so let's say like 800, or he just has to check and hope that Oblom checks behind with hand like king 8 offsuit. And looks like Oblom had an 8 almost for sure. Jack 5 suited. Okay. Jack 8-4 is a very dry and good board for you. There's not a whole lot happening here. Charlie's bet sizes just seem quite random. He just hovers over one, and whenever he feels like it, he just stops. There's not a lot of thought going into it, as in his bet sizes are very inconsistent. And he's giving away a lot of information. Turn is not the greatest card, right? Oshpiel could have hands like pocket 6s or jack 6 or 7-5. So it's not a great spot for you, but I don't mind this bet size. Charlie's leaning in, covering his mouth. Come on, Oshpiel, please fold. Scratching his beard. And saying whatever. I'm not wearing headphones, so I have no idea. And look at this. So, hey, nice hand, Charlie. So let's see what he does here. I actually wouldn't be surprised if he ended up shoving in this spot, thinking, well, I have queen 10. I don't think my opponent exactly has queen 10. Let's see if he ends up shipping here. And he does. And if Oshpiel has a hand like jack 10, he's actually in a pretty tough spot, right? Because what is Charlie bluffing with? If he had a hand like 10-9 on the turn, well, that now is a pair, so we just check behind. 7-5 got there. If he had a hand like 9-7, he would check behind. 10-7 got there. Right? What is this guy bluffing with? Is he just bluffing with 2 overcards or something random? Is he turning a pair into a bluff, right? all possibilities.